Tomorrow, one and all, and welcome back to another faction focus with me, the Bone, and you, the Chef.
It's true, it's me, the Chef.
And it's also true that I am the Bone.
Yeah.
Yes.
If you weren't, I would be slightly concerned.
Yeah.
Like,
an imposter.
what?
Well, we are talking about warp goodness today.
Shenanigans.
Craziness.
Yeah.
We are actually going to do a good, bad, and ugly on Chaos Demons. I think they're in a very interesting place now.
They've caught a lot of people by surprise recently.
Especially me. I've been surprised many times. So why don't we start with the good? I think good in general is pretty much all of the Slaanesh stuff.
Yeah. They are doing the rounds at the moment in the competitive scene, and they're just really cool.
Yeah.
They've always been really cool. I think sort of from a points perspective, they've come out incredibly well.
Yes.
From the Munitorum manual when you compare them to other stuff. Like, you know, we were sort of saying a little while ago, when you sort of look at certain things, you go, okay, I mean, you could say that's that, but Demonettes.
Yeah, exactly.
They're really good for their points.
They're incredible. Yeah, well, let's start with them. Demonettes, those blobs of Demonettes are just so good.
Yeah.
They're so fast. They do suffer a little bit from being, you know, Demonettes in that.
They're toughness free.
They're toughness free.
Let's not, you know.
Yeah, you get high rate of firepower on them. You are going to chew through them, but then you do have stratagems which can really help them. You've got warp surge. There is a way with certain models to give them -1 to hit as well, I believe.
That's in combat with the Mask of Slaanesh.
Oh, forgive me. Okay, but still.
Yeah, which again, if you come up against some armies, a -1 to hit in combat can be absolutely crucial.
Exactly.
You know, so in addition to their various other stratagems that they have, so there's like a -1 attack aura stratagem that you can do. So they've got a really good combination of killiness, speed, as well as survivability in combat, and you can make them survivable against shooting in a pinch with that 4-up warp surge, which sometimes it's huge, and you just save so much more than you would have done.
It can make an incredible difference.
The morale changes have drastically helped Demons.
Big time.
Because before it was, cool, you've lost 7, I hope you roll a 1, otherwise you're going to be removing loads and loads of models.
Yeah.
Whereas now it's, if you roll a 1, congratulations, you're going to be bringing guys back if you've got the banner in there.
Which you should have.
Which you should always take, in my opinion. Or you go, great, I lose 1, and then I might lose another sort of 4 or 5.
Yeah.
You know, 6, 7 at a push. Like, it depends on it's always dependent, but I mean, so anecdotal, the Tactica that I played against Lawrence the other day.
Yes.
With the Drukhari, and I lost 2 Demonettes from a unit, failed the morale, and then lost another 6 from combat attrition. That's where the old school morale obviously would have helped. But that's such a niche case that I'll take the new morale over it in any day.
Any day.
Because you just go, because most armies will now have to kind of look at those 10 remaining Demonettes and go, that's still Demonettes that are going to tie up stuff and maybe cause some problems. I have to deal with them.
You gotta.
And you can't rely on the morale anymore, so that really plays to their favour.
Sure. Yeah, no, 100%. They're a frightening unit to deal with. Absolutely frightening. Then, we move over to the Keeper of Secrets.
They are one of my new favourites. The models themselves are absolutely gorgeous.
Stunning.
And yeah, point for point, their output is just insane.
They're my newfound nemesis.
They are. I think all of the greater demons are much better now due to various reasons, and we'll sort of get onto them in a bit. But I think the Keeper of Secrets is so points efficient.
Yeah,
I can understand why you're seeing 2, if not 3, in competitive lists.
Yep.
And you know what? Even 1. Because you've got to deal with it.
Yeah.
You're then not dealing with the other stuff that they've got. And I just like seeing Greater Demons on the table.
Same.
I just think it's really cool.
I want to see them all the time.
Just not against you.
Just not against me. I don't mind. We had a game recently which I won't go into because I don't know what the release schedule is.
Yeah, we don't know
be.
when this is going to come out in
But
relation.
it's just the speed, the survivability, and then when they get to you, the amount of damage that they unleash is just horrific. Yeah. It's absolutely horrific.
Yeah. And they, of course, have counterplay. Like, absolutely, they have counterplay. But you then have to, it's that kind of almost Harlequin-esque, which is appropriate, sort of thing of you have to entirely change your game plan if someone goes, there's free Keeper of Secrets, which is a very extreme example. But if someone, even like a pure Slaanesh army, if someone went, there's, you know, a Demon Prince, a couple of sort of Heralds, a bunch of Demonettes, a Keeper of Secrets, and you just go, I know that army is so fast that it's going to lock me down in turn 1 at the, you know, sort of at a push, depending, or turn 2. If I was to play, say, you know, with some armies, you might go, if I played the way that I would normally play, I'm getting locked in my deployment zone turn 1.
Yeah.
I do not want that. So I have to completely change my game plan due to their speed. So you're already playing that, and that's, again, Demons are such a weird faction in that regard that I think because they've got a surprising number of tricks, despite their low number of sort of apparent tricks, if that makes sense.
Yeah.
Like, there's a lot that they can do, even though on paper it doesn't look like that they can do a lot.
Yeah.
Is what I found. That it can really, really change up your opponent's game plans, and the Keeper of Secrets is just a perfect example of that.
It's, I love it. I love it. So, I mean, yeah, that's kind of Slaanesh. I mean, there's I kind of think a lot of this stuff is really, really good. It's Selesky.
Yeah, Selesky is again a phenomenally good character. You know, you're paying kind of in the region of a Greater Demon points, but they're almost as killy as one, if not more, depending on the target and the amount of auras and buffs that they can give your army, especially if you're running like Demonette Hordes, because you're giving them reroll morale, which is crucial.
Yep.
Because you want to fish for those ones. You're giving them a +1 strength, thanks to the Herald on top, and you're giving them reroll 1s thanks to the Demon Prince on the bottom. You're getting 3 auras, and they're all amazing auras for a Slaanesh army.
Yeah.
You know, so it's sort of, again, not necessarily a no-brainer choice, but, you know, sometimes you do sort of look at it and go, yeah, but what can I drop to put in Selesky?
Exactly.
Like, she, he, they are that good.
They're a good team.
I mean, you know, they are the tag team champions of the Warp.
Of the Warp.
So, you know.
I love it. Yeah. Cool. All right. So let's talk about some of the other Demon factions as well.
Because they've all got good stuff.
Yeah. I mean, we move over to sort of Nurgle. I mean, I think they were kind of top dog for a while.
Yes.
I'm not sure they are anymore, but I mean, they still have some key units which are really, really good. I'm a massive fan of Nurglings. They are the most frustrating unit to try and remove from objectives ever. And now that they've got stratagems, you can just bring them back on 5s. They just are an absolute annoyance. And when used correctly, not only are they going to like just sit on objectives and score you points, but you can use them to deny your opponent's points as well, because they are troops. So, you know, you get those, you've got that dedicated transport sitting on that objective. You're like, yeah, okay, great, shoot me off. But here's a Nurgling. One base just completely denies you all of those points. They are probably one of the better infiltrating units in the game at the moment, in my opinion.
They're cheap for what they do. You have to dedicate either mortal wounds to them to bypass the shrug, because they don't get it against that, or damage 2 or above weapons, which means that you're not shooting those weapons at, say, your cavalry or your bigger stuff or your greater demons, which is then, depending on what you've got in your army, a bit of a waste. And even then, on top of that, they've still got 5 up invuln. And if it's damage 2 weapons, you still need to get 2 of those through. Because they've got the 4 wounds. And then if you're firing damage 1 weapons at them, you better have a lot of them. Because even then, a unit of 3 has 12 wounds. And it's only 54 points.
And it's 5 up, 5 up. And
they're just, you know, sure, their toughness 2, most things are winning them on 3s, if not 2s. But you don't care.
It doesn't matter.
They're absorbing firepower, and because they've infiltrated, they actually help you with things like engage on all fronts. They help put the pressure on your opponent in terms of any objectives in their home, Or conversely, if you're playing on a mission where there's objectives sort of in the mid-board, you just go boom, 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 park them on that. You've got to move me off.
Yeah.
You've got to move me off, otherwise in turn 2, bang, there's all the primaries. So there, yeah, again, a super solid choice.
Love them, love them. And there's good in everything as well.
Yes.
But why don't we talk about the exalted greater demons now as well?
They're so much fun.
Yes.
They're so much fun. Look, they are... I can't remember who it was. This was at a tournament a little while ago, and he ran like a proper Monster Mash list. It was like 5 or 6 greater demons. It's kind of where I took the inspiration for our Tactica game recently that is either out already or is coming out soon. Again, schedules we don't know. And he basically said, I made them all exalted. And people were like, oh, but you're only starting with like 2 or 3 CP. And he was like, yeah, but the buffs that they get would be worth 2 CP.
Yeah.
Like, and he was rolling every game for them, and he admitted, I think, on his Bloodthirst, he got lucky. Every game in the tournament, he got the 2-up, or the +2 to the charge, and the 6-inch heroic intervention on the Bloodthirster, which is amazing.
Yeah.
Because not only does it mean that he's now got the opportunity to go, yeah, I'm going to whack him in Deep Strike and make that charge reliably.
Yep.
But he can also now park a Bloodthirster on an objective and go, you have to shoot me off. If you don't shoot me off, you are not stealing this objective because I will intervene into you and probably kill you.
Yeah.
You can't drive a Rhino over there to, contest it. He'll kill it.
Yeah.
You can't bring a unit of troops over there because you best hope that you've got more than 5 or 6 guys in that unit.
Yeah, because they will die.
Destroy most things in combat.
Yeah.
Sure, sometimes he can whiff. It happens.
But so can any model.
But
so
the sheer threat of him is the issue. So things like that, when you can go, yeah, you see my Great Unclean one? 4-up shrug.
Yeah, that's
It's
big,
obnoxious.
that big blob of a boy.
Yeah.
He is just so frustrating to play against.
Yeah.
4-up
A
shrug.
4-up shrug is just nuts.
Yeah.
It's something like, I think it works out at, it gives him... it effectively gives him like 25 wounds rather than 18, which you kind of need for him because of all the greater demons, he's the only one that you can target for obscuring, and he doesn't get the bonus of dense because he's so fat, despite being the shortest of them all. He can be seen over the...
I think it's you see the smell lines.
Yeah.
You just know he's there.
Yeah,
exactly. All the stuff around him slowly decaying. So it's more like the obscuring, there's just suddenly a hole
all the
there.
trees are melting.
Yeah, exactly.
So, and that's sort of another part of why greater demons are sort of seeing that resurgence is things like obscuring and dense. If you're playing on an appropriate board with appropriate terrain, you just can't target them.
No.
You can't get them.
No.
Which helps them massively. Your exalted Keeper of Secrets, like every one of those choices is amazing.
Yeah.
Like there's not really a bad choice outside of maybe the Fear Seeker in certain matchups.
Yeah.
So that's the one where every time a unit within 6 inches, every time a model flees within 6 inches, that model heals a wound.
Yeah.
Which, against some armies, you just go, great, you're never going to kill me.
Yeah.
Because 7 ran away, I'll have 7 wounds back because there's no cap on it.
Yeah.
But also, you get to immediately move towards that unit, which is amazing. However, against some armies, that's not so great. But you know what? I'll take the chance of it rolling every game because all of those options are great.
Yeah.
And you can also do, I can't remember what people are calling him, but the unkillable chicken. So it's the Lord of Change. You make him your Warlord. You give him the Warlord trait of reduce your damage by 1. Mm-hmm. You give him the Aura of Mutability, so he has a 6-up shrug. And every time, and once the unit has finished attacking, for every 6 that he shrugged, he heals a wound. So let's say you did like 8 damage to him and he shrugged 2. Well, he just regained 2 wounds.
Yeah.
So,
And then you only did 7 damage because you've reduced it by 1
you reduce
as well.
all the individual damage by 1.
Yeah,
oh,
yeah.
and he's got the impossible robe, so he's got a 3-up in button.
Yeah.
So you're probably not going to kill it. All you need to do... So really, you kind of go, I'll probably just ignore him. And then with this 16-inch flying chicken going around smiting stuff and charging things, you can't ignore him.
Yeah.
This is why the Monster Mash is kind of doing the rounds at the moment, because if you've got 3 or 4 greater demons all with that sort of speed and survivability and extra stuff, it makes them a nightmare to play against because you have to devote firepower to kill them, and you're probably not going to kill them all.
No.
Just on the basis of all that stuff. So they're all really solid.
Yeah.
They're all really solid. And I have never found in any of the, I mean, I say that I've only played like 3 games with the Demons, 4 games with the Demons, however many games with the Demons. I have never felt that the Exalted upgrade was a waste.
Nah.
In any game, it's always been useful.
Yeah, no, 100%. If I were, I'd spend the CP, 100%. And there is something cool just about having these huge monsters just storming around the board, destroying people. But that's what they should be like.
Yeah, they should be terrifying.
They're starting to feel more like the fluff of what they are.
Yeah.
Which is great. I mean, Keeper of Secrets is still, in my opinion, like the real winner.
I think
as it were.
she's the winner just because of her efficiency.
And how many points?
She's 230 points or 240 if you give her the 6-up shield.
Yeah. Okay. So maybe even a little cheap. I don't know.
You know what? I think I would argue she's a little bit undercosted.
Yeah.
Given what they're capable of doing, I would say that she could probably go up a few points.
Yeah.
Because
not that we want to start,
Yeah.
But
that's but that's what I mean. That's how good she is.
Yeah.
Like, when you look at, of all things, a greater demon and go, you're a bit cheap.
Yeah.
Like, can you imagine saying that at the beginning of 8th edition where they were 320 points each? And you'd be like,
and they did nothing.
They died horribly every game.
Every game.
Yeah, you put one on and you just went, thank you for the free kill. Whereas now you just kind of go, yeah. It just means that my dream of running a fully mixed army is getting closer to fruition. One of each greater demon, a 30-man blob of each infantry unit,
with the bloodletters,
and one of each of like a special unit. So like a unit of plague drones, a unit of screamers, a unit of fiends, and then a unit of blood crushers. It's probably a bit over 2,000 points. I don't care. It would look amazing.
But I'm going to run it anyway.
Yeah, it'd be amazing. It looks so cool.
Yeah. Cool. Well, I think those are kind of like the key units that, like, there's lots of good stuff in there. Obviously.
Flamers are great. Beasts of Nurgle are great. We know. We want to talk about the big standouts.
The big standouts.
The big boys and girls are the big standouts.
I'm still a big fan of bloodletters. I still think they're really good.
The bloodletters are still good. I think I think my only issue with the bloodletters is they feel a little bit too expensive for what they do.
Yeah, I think you are paying points for the what they can do a bit. They are suffering a little bit from that.
Yeah,
but when they do that,
I think that they're also a very interesting choice, especially going into what will eventually become very commonplace, which is your 2-wound Marines. We know that they're not real yet, guys, but sort of just thinking ahead a few months where you are going to start seeing them, having the ability to have the 2 damage on their 6s to wound could be quite important.
Yeah.
Something to consider. Your bloodletter bomb's still great. I think Beasts of Nurgle, someone did the maths on it. Someone online did the maths. They are the points for wounds. Like, given the fact that they're accounting for their toughness, the number of wounds, the 5-up and the shrug. Yeah. They are the most points effective, like points per wound model in the game.
Wow.
They're just that.
I love it when people do this sort of stuff. This is the sort of things I want to know.
Cool. It's really cool to see. Yeah, I think because there's something like 28 point. I don't know. I'm literally making that up. But yeah, someone was like, if you compare it to a bunch of other stuff, other survivable things, it's like the equivalent per wound and all that. And Beasts of Nurgle are that survivable. They're the most efficient unit in the game in terms of survivability for how many wounds and how much they cost. Which, like you say, is really cool that someone did that. Yeah. So again, that's something that you can look at and go, that's going to help me in the more sort of grander things like board control, which demons excel at, in my opinion.
Yeah, and in a game which is now all about board control, it's exactly what you want. It's exactly what you want.
You've got fast stuff, you've got the ability to deep strike, you've got survivable stuff, you've got quite efficient stuff for their points in terms of survivability and damage output. So all of that does give your opponent some real difficult decisions to make, meaning that you're just going to get...
is a nightmare against demons at the moment. Like, what do I need to get rid of? It can be a little bit easier if you're playing like a pure demon army, but if you're playing like mixed demons at the moment with like, you've got all these demonettes charging into you, go, well, I better get rid of them. Oh, but those Nurglings are sitting on those bases. Well, I've probably got to deal with them. Oh, what's that? Greater demons coming towards me. Oh, I've got to deal with that. And it's stressful. It's a stressful time. I get stressed out by it. But if you are a Demons player at the moment, I would be feeling pretty happy.
Yeah.
Pretty happy. It might. I mean, if you're a pure Demons player, there might be some people out there going, "Oh yeah, but there's always been some that are better than the others." I get that, but like as a whole, I think I'd be feeling pretty good.
Yeah, I agree. I think those are the big sort of like good things. Like I said, there's always a bunch of stuff that we've not targeted on. I know Flamers are doing the rounds, like Beast and Ogre we mentioned, but. Again, as always, let us know in the comments, really go into that deep dive, actually Demonettes aren't as good as you think because of XYZ. Cool. Let us know.
Yeah, love it. Always love hearing all that sort of stuff. But even though there is a lot of good, there is always bad. Yes. And we will cover that in just a moment. And now, the bad.
They are the embodiment of all negative emotions.
Yes.
And positive emotions taken to the extreme.
Yeah. They're everything.
Yeah.
They're just pure energy, really.
Yeah, I mean, essentially.
Yeah.
That
generally manifests in a chaotic way.
Oh, very clever.
I'm going to let you talk now. I'm done. That's it. I've nailed it.
You peaked.
Yeah. Anything else I say now is rubbish.
So, I mean, in-game bad stuff, guys. I think the big one is the overall feel of the codex. It's probably more so than any other army, so split and divergent. It makes it actually kind of awkward because you almost want to go, right, I feel like I've been not forced, but I feel like I have to do a mono army or a mono detachment. Okay. And that's not necessarily a bad thing. But what about those people that want to take a mixed Chaos army? Now, I know some people go, oh, but it's not fluffy. They would never work together. It's not about working together, but if someone's like, if there's a demon world or, that belongs to a particular Chaos god, cool. If there's a demonic incursion on a planet as a result of someone conducting like a foul ritual to Nurgle, it makes sense that there would only be a Nurgle army. So there's some narrative stuff. If there's a general warp rift over a planet, all the demons are going to come along and have a good time.
Yeah.
Why would they not be fighting together? You can quite easily spin the narrative to have a mixed demon army. So for those people that want to do that, they are punished because there's no benefit to doing that. You lose all of your locuses, and this is the other problem, is you are the only army as a Demons player that has your army abilities revolving around your characters.
Yeah.
Can you imagine if you, as a Salamander successor, only got your +3 inches and your stealthy or your master artisans if you were within 6 inches of a character? Now you probably will be anyway, because you want chapter master. But now imagine that your character dies. Now imagine that you want to deep strike something and it doesn't get that bonus. You now have to play so far ahead into... And some armies are kind of like, yeah, I know, but I'm already dependent on my characters anyway. Eugene Sealer cults, or things like orcs, like your advance and charge. But imagine if you only got bad moons if they were within 6 inches of your war boss as well.
Yeah, it wouldn't make
You
any
couldn't
sense.
leave like your looters sort of by themselves.
Yeah.
Imagine if your Harlequins only got the ability to get the +1 attack on the charge if they had a Troop Master nearby, or a Shadow Seer. Well, what happens if you want to send a unit off to do something else? They lose the +1 attack on the charge for Hysterical Frenzy? It's not cool.
No.
And it feels really unfair for demon players. It's just, that is just bad. I kind of get it because these are basically mindless manifestations of the Chaos Gods.
Yeah, and the characters are like the anchor point.
And I get it.
The premise is
narratively is perfect.
I think it's another one of those things which narrative not quite translating into the game.
Yeah.
The actual game mechanic of it can become quite restrictive. But I mean, as we've also been discussing, it's kind of like, I'm going to lose these sorts of things. It's not that it balances out.
No.
It doesn't. But at least you go, well, but I've got these great units here, and they're going to be able to do all that stuff, and blah blah blah. But I 100% agree that it feels super restrictive.
Yeah.
Super restrictive.
And you could argue that, they've all, because each god has their own special rule anyway, like your 5-up discussing your Resilient or your extra invuln save on your Zinch. Great. That's fine. However, that is Angels of Death. That's bolter discipline. That's death to the false emperor.
Yeah.
That's mob rule, and here we go. Those are just unit rules as far as I'm concerned. They should not be classified as an army rule. So you kind of go, now if they turn around and said, yep, all of the Slaanesh stuff gets, and this is the other thing, your Slaanesh advance and charge is very powerful.
Super powerful.
Khorne re-rolling charges is fantastic.
Yeah.
An extra damage on 6 to wound with Nurgle? Eh.
Yeah.
You're not there to kill stuff with Nurgle. You're there to border control and
sit down.
Yeah.
Yeah.
The roll 2d6, picking the lowest with Tzeentch in combat and ignore those hit rolls. Meh.
Yeah.
Unless you roll like a double 6, okay. It's just little things like that where you go, you could argue, sure, but they've got the 4-up invuln. But when their army rule is so kind of insignificant that you don't care about losing it, that's bad. Imagine if combat doctrines was so bad that you didn't care if you lost it.
That's a problem.
Actually, you know what? Combat Doctrines is really good.
Yeah.
And it was a big deal. I mean, I know there's less restrictions now because of things like Agents of the Imperium allows you to put like an Inquisitor in. But there was a real big discussion about, you know what? I don't really want to run an Assassin because losing the extra AP on my Combat Doctrines is a huge deal.
Yeah.
When something is like that, that's good game design because that makes you make some difficult choices. If the choice is so obvious that it's a no-brainer to lose it or not, that's bad.
Yeah.
So yeah, the army traits are unfortunately not very good.
No.
If those auras were just built into the characters and you got an additional army rule, great.
Yeah.
But alas, that's the army rule. It's not good. Yeah. Which is a pity. It is a pity, but it is what it is.
Yeah.
I think unit-wise, so that's the sort of the general army side of it. Unit-wise, the troops I think are really good.
Yeah.
A lot of the specialist stuff is not very good,
no,
sadly. And I know we spoke about some of the specialist stuff being good, like your Flamers, your Beasts of Nurgle. Fiends are another great unit, in my opinion. But some of them are not. Most of your chariots are amazing.
Kind of across the board, really.
They don't really do much.
Yeah. They're fast, I guess.
Some of them are.
Ish.
Yeah, some of them are. The core ones aren't very fast.
Which makes no sense.
But they move 8, because it's fluffy.
Yeah.
I think they move 8. They might move 10. But, again, it's like, they're okay. I think it's more along the lines of, like, things like your Burning Chariots. They're good. I think they're just a little bit too expensive for what they do.
100%.
And same with the Slaanesh ones. They're fun. And I've run them before. And they were actually very useful because they were tying up stuff. And they weren't that expensive. But against some armies, they're just going to be utter dead weight.
Yeah.
Utter dead weight that could be done by other units better.
And I think that's why they're bad.
Yeah.
Because there are other, you just take more troops.
Yeah.
You just take more troops.
Yeah, the troops are generally that more efficient in point. Again, I could be wrong, but from my sort of looking at it, it doesn't feel that way. And the other thing sort of alongside the chariots is the sort of your cavalry-esque stuff.
Yeah.
Again, they don't feel very good. Like your plague drones, they don't feel very effective. Your blood crushers, they don't feel very effective. Your seekers, I think, are effective. But again, that kind of goes into Slaanesh just being really good in this edition because being so fast is so vital for both board control and shutting your opponent down. Yeah. So that just works in their favour. Your blood crushers are slower and tougher and probably a bit more killy in combat, but they're slower and they're not that much tougher, really. Some of the beastie stuff is good. Like your fiends are good, your flesh hounds are good, your screamers are okay. So they're not too bad. But a lot of that specialist stuff is a bit disappointing.
Yeah.
And I think that goes for the soul grinder as well.
Yeah. And then they got, you get your plague drones and stuff too.
Yeah. They just don't feel like that they do much that, like I say, can't be done better elsewhere.
Yeah.
And that's just, it's just a shame. It's just a shame because you want to see all these cool units. And that is, again, it almost goes back to the Harlequin problem of they've actually got this really interesting, quite intricate play style of like overlapping buffs and synergies and some real good tricks that they can do. Although where the Harlequins are kind of forced into a few builds by virtue of not having many units to use anyway, the Demons are forced into a few builds by virtue of not having many good units to use.
Yeah.
They've got more unit options, but the variety isn't there. They're very similar to Craft Worlds in that respect.
Yeah, that's true.
There's a few units which you just look at and go, that's cool, that's better.
Yeah.
Why would I take the not better thing? You know, there's not a lot of variety and option, which is unfortunate, but it is what it is.
Yeah.
And that kind of covers the bad.
Yeah.
Because those are the two main issues, in my opinion, is the overall army design, and some of the specialist units just aren't great.
Yeah, great. Yeah, no, I agree. There's nothing really more I would add to that. Well, in that case, should we get ugly? We're going to get ugly. Ooh. Right, obviously, you know, we're not ugly, and neither are any of you. But this army has some ugly things in it. And the first thing is, which we've kind of touched on, but so maybe we'll just extend on this a little bit, is Demons do have a pretty predictable play style.
Yeah.
So once you've played them a couple of times, it becomes, well, I mean, it's still a dice game and everything, but it becomes much easier to learn how to counter a particular army. Like, you know, if you're playing the Greater Demons, that they're going to be up in your grill really quickly, and you know which one is going to be more survivable. So your target priority does start to become easier.
Yeah.
So that is, I mean, again, it's kind of like an army design issue. The thing is, though, because why it's ugly and not bad, this predictable playstyle is, the predictable playstyle is very good.
Yeah.
Like, it's a very good playstyle.
You rush your opponent, you box them in, you sit on objectives.
Yeah.
You're not looking really to kill stuff outside of a few key units.
Yeah. And that's where your Greater Demons will come in.
Exactly.
Or whatever, right? So yeah, I think that's an ugly thing.
Yeah, and I think the interesting thing in terms of what you mentioned about, you know, once you've played them a few times and your target priority improves, that is just a nature, and I'm going to sort of talk from like a competitive standpoint here, guys. That just becomes second nature to sort of the competitive scene when there's an army that is catching people off guard. I can't remember where it was or the name of the tournament, but a pure Slanesh Demon won a tournament recently. Just sort of weekend just got, I think, was it not Vanquish tournament? I can't remember where it was or the guy's name. Apologies. But it was a pure Slanesh Demons list, and it was almost like with the Harlequins. The Harlequins, you know, sort of they're placing very well in tournaments, if not winning tournaments, and people are just like, what?
Yeah.
What? And yet, at that particular tournament, there were no Marines in the top 5 because everyone is building to counter Marines.
Yeah.
Because they're the easy choice in a tournament setting. Custodies are not winning tournaments. Death Guard have won a few tournaments, but not nearly as much as everyone was predicting.
Yeah.
Things like Demons have come out of nowhere
Yeah.
in order to sort of deal with stuff. And so eventually, and this is the thing with like competitive, metas shift, they change, people adapt. They improvise, they overcome.
Yes.
So that will eventually change. What it doesn't change is your target priority can be absolutely on point. And as you say, it's a dice game. Sometimes it'll happen, sometimes it won't. But it doesn't change the overall effectiveness of their playstyle, as you quite rightly say.
Yeah.
Your target priority can be absolutely perfect, and your dice rolls can be bang on the average, and you will still have a problem with dealing with what they have brought, because obviously in the hands of a good player, that's how they work, and just that's how efficient and effective they can be. Having said that, also from a competitive standpoint and a general standpoint, secondaries are really tough for Demons.
Yeah.
Because if you've not brought a Psyker, Abhor the Witch, Assassinate, bring it down, thank you, I'll take my 45. I've killed 3 of your Greater Demons, I will take all of my victory points.
Yes.
Pretty much.
Yeah.
At that stage, you've taken, out of a possible 45 on your secondaries, that would be 33 of them.
Ugh.
No, more than that. Because you get...
Bring it down for 3, Assassinate for 5, and then...
Oh, Abhor the Witch for 5, because they're...
Pull the Witch for 5, bring it down for 3, assassinate for...
Yeah,
so
30
it's
because
11.
each
33.
greater demon would be worth 11 victory points. Now, obviously, that's only an issue if you're bringing multiple greater demons. Competitively, you probably are. Although, interestingly, this pure Slanesh list had 2 greater demons.
Is Bring It Down and Assassinate in the same secondary?
No, one's Purge, one's No Mercy.
Purge, right,
Yeah,
sure.
so you are able to stack them.
Yeah.
Oh, no, sorry, no, forgive me. You're right. No, Bring It Down and Assassinate are in the same one. So you'd go Thin the Ranks, because chances are you've got all the bodies.
Yeah, exactly.
So, you go, so each greater demon is worth 9 victory points.
Which is...
But then you're having to kill all the demonettes and stuff anyway. But it's still 9 victory points for one model, which you need to kill anyway. Is a massive... It's not just an uptick for you in secondaries, but it's a downtick for your opponent, because that's obviously, a tactical missile.
Yeah.
They need that unit in order to do damage and cause threat. If it's absorbed all the firepower and you've still got one left, great. But if they've absorbed some of the firepower and then the other one's damaged as well, now you're in real trouble. Now you're in real trouble. Hence why you're seeing the spam of them.
Yeah.
And vice versa. Picking secondaries for demons is very difficult.
Yeah, well, because it's... I think actually, though, given the way that we play, if you're looking to mix them, right, actually, I think it can be... You're always going for more board control sort of stuff at all times.
You're not really going for the killy ones.
No.
Obviously, this is army dependent. There'll be armies where they go, I've bought 8 characters and they're all combat based and sort of, to build up my big buffing sanguinary blob guard. And you go, assassinate.
Yeah.
Because you're going to be where I want to be.
Yeah,
fantastic.
exactly.
You come up against, something like, a guard tank list.
Yeah.
And you've only got 1 or 2 greater demons, Bring It Down is very tempting. Don't do it.
No,
you will not kill them.
No, you'll tie them up.
Yeah, you won't kill them all. Your demonettes are great, but they're not killing tanks, really. Not unless you roll insanely lucky.
Which can happen.
It can happen, but it's not a reliable one.
No.
This means your reliable secondaries are your things like engage on all fronts. Banners, depending on the mission. You're never going to take banners on a 4 objective mission.
No, you are not.
And engage on all fronts can sometimes be quite tricky because you have to be wholly within.
Yeah. Line breaker could be good.
With things like Nurglings or like your individual, if you're running units of like 1 or 2 Fiends or units of 5 Seekers, again, and it kind of all goes back to Slanesh.
Yeah.
That's why they're probably really, really good. Of all the 4 of them, they're one of the best in terms of a mono army, like as a whole. Again, as we say, all of them have good bits, but I think Slanesh as a whole is probably the best at the moment.
Yeah,
and that's because of their speed. They can do these more difficult secondaries a bit easier than everyone else.
Agree.
Correct me if I'm wrong. Again, let us know if there's something that you go, no, I would take the secondary every time, and it's never failed me. Great, trust me, I want to know, because I rack my brains in every game that I've played with them, going, I don't know what secondary to go. I don't know what secondary to do. And obviously that's something that will come with time and practice, and obviously the missions and learning the army sort of, more and more and more as you play them. But on paper, choosing secondaries against demons is very easy because you're going to go thin the ranks, and you're probably going to go Bring It Down depending on what they've brought. Although vice versa, if you build knowing that, you can kind of mitigate your secondaries. So again, it all comes down to army build. But on paper, it looks difficult to choose if you're a demon player, and it's also quite easy to choose against a demon player, which is ugly because that's just, it gives you, especially because you're hemmed into that particular play style, it's kind of, that you're going to give away.
Yeah.
If you're taking 3 greater demons, and someone comes up against you and they don't have any psychers, you're building that list going, Abhor the Witch is going to be a real problem.
Yeah.
It's going to be and you just kind of go, I hope someone brings a psyker.
Yeah.
I hope that every game I play in a tournament, someone has a
There's a
psyker.
psyker.
But people are not running psykers because
Specifically
Abhor the Witch
for
is a
this.
really big secondary to get.
And there are a lot of armies that actually don't need psychers to function properly anyway. They can do some nice stuff, but if you look at like raw firepower or combat or whatever,
It's not crucial.
It's not crucial. You don't need it. I mean, another thing that other than secondaries and kind of talking about raw firepower is the fact it's kind of, they don't have any demons, don't really have any firepower, not a substantial amount to do any damage.
Yeah.
And I think this is not necessarily a bad thing.
No.
Because of what we've spoken about, like the survivability, the fact that they want to get in combat, the fact that you need to shift them off the objectives. That's how the army plays, that's fine. Having said that, again, and it kind of goes back into that predictable play style.
Yeah.
So you're dealing with this it's not even, this is why it's ugly, because it's like, I kind of go, well, yeah, you don't get shooting, that's fine. But
yeah.
it kind of...
You can't, like, I've got these units which can deal with your units via shooting. I know that you can't deal with them because I can just screen them out. You're pretty much entirely combat.
Yeah.
And again, yes, there are some shooting. You've got things like horrors and flamers, which I have mentioned a few times. They are good. The flamers are good, but they're not doing what you need in terms of shooting. I don't need anti-infantry firepower with a Demon's army. I have Demonettes for that. I have Bloodletters for that. I don't need it. What I need is anti-tank from range. And you just don't really have it.
No.
The Soul Grinders aren't great. As we sort of mentioned, they're not very good. Your Exalted Flamers could do it in a pinch, but they're quite short range.
Yep.
Which is fine because, again, you're smaller board. You can. So there's ways around it, but the overall lack of it and it being sort of condensed into a few things, and those few things generally being anti-infantry or low AP. It just doesn't... No. It kind of exacerbates that issue of going, because you've got that predictable playstyle, as you quite rightly say, you don't have shooting as well. So I know... Someone goes, yeah, here's my demon army. Oh, it's my pure Slanesh Demons army. Oh, I've got Marines. Cool. My aggressors are going to be behind 2 ranks of intercessors. Goodbye.
That's it.
That's it. At that stage, that's it.
Yeah.
Like if someone did that against me, I'd be like, well, I'm going to lose 1, if not 2 blobs a turn.
Yeah.
At that point, by turn 3, you got nothing left.
Yeah.
So where's your ball control? That's the thing. You're great at ball control till you're dead. Yeah. And some armies can just wipe them off if they screen efficiently and correctly. And you have very little way in the way of removing that screen from range. So they have very little support. Now, I'm going to say something real controversial here for you veterans of 4th edition. I loved the warp table. It was so much fun. So people... So,
I don't know what this is.
So essentially, in your shooting phase, because this was back when they got given the Soul Grinder, and it was like, demons have shooting now. It's amazing.
Right.
And this is when they were their first army. They had like a bunch of cool special rules, like the entire army could deep strike, and it was very, very cool because that was to represent the demonic incursion. They had the warp. It was 4th edition or 5th edition, either way. And at the start of your shooting phase, you rolled 2d6 to represent the warp sort of flowing over the battlefield in this like chaotic, battle environment. And it could be various things like your entire army gets +1 to their invuln save.
Cool.
Conversely, if you roll a double 1, your entire army loses 1 from their invuln save because the warp is fickle. But the mid-range was, Khorne diverts his gaze to the battlefield and throws one of the brass skulls from his throne onto the battlefield. Pick an enemy unit anywhere on the board, put the large template over them, they take a battle cannon shot. It was just really cool, and it gave them some real nice, fluffy... It was great.
Yeah, I love that.
It was like Nurgle decides to just vomit onto the battlefield, D6 units take a small blast as he just vomits onto a couple of units.
That's fun.
And it was fun. It was very unpredictable and swingy, and this was in an era where everyone was like, oh, random tables in a dice game are too random. I thought it was hilarious.
Yeah.
And the amount of times where you'd get it where someone would just be like, yeah, I'm just going to throw like a brass skull onto that unit of Marines. Oh no. Boom! And it gave them some support and utility. I'm not saying that we want something like that back.
Nah.
But
it's fun.
It was fun. It was something like that kind of offset the fact that they didn't have a shooting phase, but they could do something in it.
Yeah.
I don't really know.
I don't know what the answer is. I know what you mean.
But you know what I mean. I'm just that's where you could have that as an army rule. If you are Khorne, once per shooting phase, you can throw a d6. You can use the following weapon profile from one of your characters to represent them calling down Khorne's wrath on the battlefield.
Yeah, or something like that would be great. It'd be great. And it is. It is an interesting one because I think that would be just a nice thing that they could do. But it's also then it comes back to like army design in general, and so you kind of sit there and we go, well, like it would be great if every army had everything. I think
and some armies should have weaknesses.
Yeah, 100%. I guess the problem is now
that's a big weakness.
Is that is a big weakness. Yeah. And there are some armies that actually can do everything.
Yeah.
So you can't. So that's the point where you kind of go. But yeah, I agree. I'd love that. I'd love that. I want to just. I'd like to think that just like rains nurglings down.
Yeah.
Like this. Like this cloud comes over and all these nurglings just rolled, and they. Yeah, and they get inside the vehicles.
They're
and
all
start,
doing like body.
Exactly.
Body
Exactly. Yeah. And they get inside your vehicles and like they start tearing out all the wires and stuff. You could get really creative with it. Yeah. I think it's cool.
And you're just little things like that, And I know we've sort of like bit of a tangent, but that's just sort of from a like an army design, a game design perspective, something like that would mitigate some of their weakness without it being, oh, now suddenly demons are a shooting army, which would be weird.
Yeah, we don't want that.
And again, I want armies to have weaknesses because it makes the better generals stand out.
Yeah.
Because overcoming an army's weakness is super important. But yeah, something like that, they just need a little bit extra there. But who knows what's going to happen.
I don't. I do not. No, lastly, I want to finish on a particular unit for Ugly, because this particular unit used to be the champion. The Don. And I don't think they're that anymore, and that is Plague Bearers.
Yeah. So we did mention them earlier.
Yeah.
I just think they're a bit too expensive now.
I think they're a little bit too expensive. They're still going to be good at holding objectives. However, they're not. I mean, there's ways of making them faster, sure. If you want to get your trees of fecundity in there and all that sort of stuff. Like, I get all that, but they're not killy at all. No, they're not killy at all. And actually, with the price point now, and there are a lot of armies which are taking high rate of firepower, and then you've got your chapter masters in there anyway, and you can work through. You would always able to kind of work through them, but it would be an investment of such a lot of firepower, which is still the case, but they're just not as potent as they used to be, especially considering other models that are now available.
The cap on modifiers as well is, again, and I've said it before, I'll say it again, it's a amazingly good thing for the game. I do not agree, and I will vehemently disagree continually with anyone that thought stacking more than 2 or 3 on a modifier was good for game balance.
It's terrible.
It was a terrible, terrible, terrible idea for game balance.
Yeah, because there were just certain armies that can do nothing against it.
You can do anything, and you could argue, I know, but some armies, but stacking to 2, like armies are still hitting on 6s. Yeah, but a Tau army, that's all they can do is hit on 6s.
Or guard.
All they can do, or guard. Yeah, but Marines could reroll it. Yeah, but that was Marines.
Yeah.
Like, Marines rerolling everything and hitting on 5s against, like, your Plague Bearers if you had over 20 and your Miasma. That's why they were so effective, was because you could stack those modifiers. And this is similar to what we said with the Craft World thing, is... Unfortunately, this is an older codex now, clearly not written with 9th edition in mind, because it was written sort of nearer the beginning of 8th edition. We know that based on when it was released. So stacking modifiers was a thing. And it was probably built and balanced with that in mind. However, now it's no longer a thing, and they received the points increase. It's too much. It's too much of a continuous nerf to them, to use the sort of that phrase.
They're still going to do the job sometimes, but they're not as effective as they used to be. No. But look, there's why they're not bad and why they're ugly is they're still going to win you some games.
Oh yeah,
100%.
Yeah.
But the alpha kind of troop unit that used to be just almost unbeatable is no longer a thing.
Yeah, and again, that's not a bad thing because it's good for game balance.
Yes.
But from their perspective, they now need something else.
Yeah.
And this is why it's an ugly, because we know that every book is going to be updated.
Yes.
We know that every unit's going to get a new codex at some point, guys. The issue is when. So the problem is how long a Plague Bearer is going to be now in this ugly limbo state of going, well, we used to be great because of our old rules. Now the new main rules have changed what our old rules were capable of doing, which leaves us a bit out of sync, as it were, with the rest of the game. So, like you say, they're still good, and they will still, for some armies, that -1 is still going to be an absolute nightmare to deal with. Like, Tau hitting on 5s is still a big old problem, but it's still 33% better than hitting on 6s.
Yeah, exactly.
You know, it's still, you're now doing a third more chance of damage, which is, that's massive. That is massive.
That's huge.
So, yeah, I agree completely. They are an ugly unit. However, the army as a whole, I'm going to give it a good stamp.
I'm going to give Demons good as well.
Yeah. Which is surprising because and this is the thing, and I know that I've been talking with a few people sort of, you know, online and like private messaging, and our general consensus is the book as itself needs a massive update.
Yeah.
And that is still 100% the case. It needs a massive update because it's missing a lot of sort of viability and, you know, ironically, unpredictability for a Chaos army.
Yeah.
It just needs a bit of a zhuzh. Yeah, it needs a zhuzh. It needs a redo in order to give it some new life. However, what you have at the moment, if you're a good player and you're building your army correctly, I think you can definitely make some real surprising combos.
Yeah.
And they still play quite interestingly. I just think they do need a breath of fresh air, which again, we know is going to come. But overall, I think it's a good.
Yeah, I 100% agree. 100% agree. Let us know what you guys think. Have you been playing against Demons recently? Did you kind of laugh at your opponent when you put them down and then suddenly you get tabled and you're like, oh no. I was not expecting that. Or maybe you're a Demons player and you're horrifically disappointed for X, Y, and Z. And let us know. Let us know why. And then we can, you know, I've been really enjoying, again, like, we try and reply to as many messages as we can, but I've been really enjoying seeing like the community and all of you guys having discussions about it and have you tried this and all that sort of stuff. It's really cool. So look, I think for now that's us done. So thank you again for watching. Hope you really enjoyed that. This has been me, the Bone, and you, the Chef, and we will see you all very, very soon. Bye now, bye.